Now, on to the second part of the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a series on FightGameMedia.com called The 45 Greatest Fighters of the Last 45 Years. A series of articles that I've written for the last, Lord, man, almost, well, I've just finished writing my 30th article, the number 16 fighter of the last 45 years. So that right there entails some 6 to 8 months I've been doing this series. And I started with my number 45, the Filipino Flash, Nonito Donaire. Nonito is one of the 5 greatest Filipino fighters of all time. If you say he's the second after Manny Pacquiao, I won't argue. There's been a lot of great Filipino fighters. Flash Lord, Nonito Donaire, Donnie Nietes, they're definitely in my top 5. You could make an argument that Nonito is above Donnie Nietes and Flash Lord. As far as his career goes and when it started, Nonito was born in the Philippines, and his father took him and the family to America. And that's where his career began, in America. And it was crazy. He lost his second pro fight to a nondescript fighter by the name of Sanchez. This guy was a nondescript fighter. It was shocking. It was shocking. But Nonito, after losing his second pro fight to Sanchez, he would win 16 consecutive fights before getting his shot at the IBF flyweight title held by the powerful southpaw slugger Vic Darchinyan. Darchinyan was a fan favorite, and he was considered unbeatable. He was destroying everybody in the division. I thought Donaire had a chance to outbox Darchinyan because Darchinyan is a lot like Ryan Garcia and Sebastian Fundora. He doesn't have any real head movement. He comes forward and he tries to beat you with brutality. Darchinyan had almost comatized Nonito's older brother, Glenn. So this fight was really Donaire's attempt, and not only revenge, but to show the world that he was for real. Nonito thoroughly outboxed Darchinyan, and this fight occurred on July 7th, 2007. Donaire was only 24 years old. He thoroughly outboxed Darchinyan. It was a one-sided boxing lesson until the Armenian world champion Darchinyan walked into a picture-perfect left hook by Donaire that sent him sprawling and completely out. 5th round knockout, and now the Filipino Flash, Nonito Donaire, was in the beginning of one of the greatest runs of any fighter under 130 pounds in the history of boxing. Donaire, in the next 6 years, would win 13 consecutive fights with a combination of speed and power that I had not seen since a prime mid to late 1990s Roy Jones. Donaire looked damn near invincible as he acquired world title bouts at 115, 118, and 122 pounds. But unfortunately, during this iconic run, Donaire went away from his incredible boxing skills. Donaire, when he beat Darchinyan, had a beautiful jab, was a tremendous counterpuncher. Defensively, he was gifted. Unfortunately, he fell in love with his power, and he began to look for that one-punch knockout. This cost him dearly when on April 13th, 2013, Cuban master Guillermo Rigondeaux, in a fight that I attended at New York's historic Radio City Music Hall, Rigondeaux completely undressed Donaire by outboxing the Filipino great over 12 rounds to end his reign at 122 pounds. 18 months later, after Donaire had captured the WBA featherweight title, he was almost comatose by the Jamaican Nicholas Waters when Waters brutally knocked him out in the 5th round. One thing about Nonito, he told it like it was. Being interviewed after the fight, he told the HBO audience that he got knocked the fuck out. That Walters was the better fighter that night, and Walters decapitated him. Donaire then went on a career slump. Now, when he lost to Nicholas Waters, Donaire at the time was 32 years old. And 32 years old, for those who don't understand, for fighters under 130 pounds, this fight occurred at 126, is considered a death sentence. It's considered not the beginning of the end, but the end. And Donaire began to look like an old man because he would be outclassed in 2017 and 2018, first to Jesse Magdaleno at 122 pounds, and then to Carl Frampton at 126 pounds. The 35-year-old Nonito Donaire looked completely washed up. This is when he made a calculated risk in order to revive his career. He went back down to 118 pounds. He had never lost at bantamweight, 118 pounds. So he was hoping that by going back down to 118, which is tough to do at 35, it's tough to go down from 126 to 118 at 25. It's even more difficult at 35, damn near impossible. But Nonito put the work in, and he was able to move down to 118. And when he moved down to 118, he entered the World Boxing Super Series Bantamweight Tournament. In his very first fight back at 118 pounds, on November 3rd, 2018, Donaire stopped the reigning WBA Bantamweight champion Ryan Burnett in 4 rounds. And once again, he was a world champion. And Burnett was a huge favorite because everybody, including myself, felt Donaire was done. In his next fight, the semifinals of the World Boxing Super Series Bantamweight Tournament, Donaire landed his signature left hook against Stephen Young that literally paralyzed the young American fighter. The stage was now set for the finals of the tournament. Donaire would face the 26-year-old Japanese superstar Naoya Inoue in Inoue's Japanese homeland. 9 days before his 37th birthday, Donaire put on one of the greatest performances ever by a losing fighter in a major title fight. It was one of the greatest technical fights ever displayed in a boxing ring by both combatants. I would put this on a level above. No, I'm not going to say a level above, because all three, these, in my opinion, are the 3 greatest technical master fights between 2 fighters that gave the crowd enormous excitement from a combination of technical mastery and brutal punching power. That is the first Mike McCollum-James Toney fight from December of 1991 and the first Leonard Hearns fight from September 1981. The Nonito Donaire-Naoya Inoue fight is on that level, was on that level. Donaire miraculously survived an 11th round knockdown before losing the decision, the tournament final, and his title to the Japanese monster. Donaire more than held his own against the much younger Inoue, to the point where he broke Inoue's nose and orbital bone. An incredible fight, and for all intents and purposes, Donaire now was 37. I figured, time for him to retire. No, he did not retire. He continued to fight, and since then, he's again won a world title, destroying in the 4th round Nordine Ubali, brutally knocking him out in the 4th round. And recently, he destroyed Gaballo in the 4th round. And now, the scene is set. June 7th, a 39-and-a-half-year-old Nonito Donaire will be fighting the guy I consider the best fighter in the world, the greatest Japanese fighter of all time, a fighter that I will be talking about later in the series, the monster Naoya Inoue in Japan, June 7th this year, one of the most anticipated fights of the next couple of months. I don't think Donaire, at his age, can duplicate the success, never mind the success in the first fight, never mind defeating Inoue, who right now is on a level above anybody in the sport. A lot of people out there claim Canelo's the best fighter in the world. Yeah, he has the best resume, but Inoue, in my opinion, is the best fighter in the world. He combines the best offensive weaponry I've seen since a Felix Trinidad and before him a Thomas Hearns. Inoue is the closest thing I've seen to Thomas Hearns since Thomas Hearns. Why? Shotgun of a left jab, the best jab in the sport. A brutal right cross, the best right cross in the sport. A phenomenal body puncher. Only Canelo I put above Inoue as far as the best body puncher in the sport. He's got every punch, every offensive weapon. Everything comes off that shotgun jab. And Donaire, even though he's looked incredible, including the first fight with Inoue since he moved back down to 118, at almost 40 years old, he's not going to be able to sustain the same type of offense he did in the first fight against Inoue, who will now box more and not get into more of a slugfest with Donaire, because he knows that in order to beat Donaire, he's got to do like he did in the second half of the fight, do everything off that jab, and the rest of his punching powers and offensive weaponry will come into effect.